It is noteworthy that Chino, Minato, Nano, Pino and Shino were the smartest ants in Chinto's group. The five grew up playing together, but all were troubled by a problem. Repeatedly changing the mound caused him many problems. Sometimes grains, raids from here, sometimes picking up sick ants, and often day-to-day old ants will also have to die from this daily commute. It was also mandatory to change the mound, and the mandatory name was Ghumba. The rooster was very stubborn and snaky. He attacked whenever and wherever he wished. He had no idea how many insects caused the attack. Ants were the most likely to be attacked. The ants had no means of storing their food in the deadly disease. The entire group of ants lived in the mound as a family. In practice, they also showed very high seizures. If any other insects ever need grains, they come from the bee ant. Bee ant was the oldest ant in the group. The ants were very sensitive. If there was news of the robber, they would immediately come and inform each other. What was their grain? There was also a nice sourness. And you couldn't help anyone, but ants could spend the entire winter with this guava. In winter, these small pimples cannot come out, but food is required in every season. The worst habit of Ghumba was that when this group of ants sat on the mound in winter, they would sit on the mound with a coil. He took his long breath and then breathed with his tongue. The small ants screamed, then attacked the mound from below and lowered the top and bottom soil. The entire system of ants was destroyed. Occasionally, small knuckles fell on stone ants and killed them. The ants were familiar with the law of nature. He did not mind the snake food, but he was upset with the food. They also cared more than particulate than ants? He believed in more trouble than food. Chino, Minato, Pino, Shino and Nano were heavily influenced by Ghumba's antics. And one day they reached out to Bee Ant to settle the matter. Bee Ant. We are tired of picking up the bodies of our ant sisters every day. Chino started talking. First comes the grain from so far, then the old ant has to cover it with the grain. Minato lifted his front legs into the air, standing on his last two legs as he gave up his fatigue workout. When you move from one place to another, all the soil has to be dug up again. Otherwise, there is no restful sleep, Chino said. And how many times have our feet been injured in this restful sleep cycle? In previous excavations, Shino's leg was injured. So he also did his part. Nano got angry after hearing all this and spread both his legs and stood in front of them all. You also know how much pain the bee ant has in the head. Yet you are referring to the problems they already know. Define defendants directly. Tell us what we think. But you guys stop, I tell myself. The Nano was almost mounted on Bee Ant's head, and was revealing all the debris in his ear. At first Bee Ant refused all of them, but eventually their insistence was accepted. The next morning was sunny due to the last days of summer. Ghumba became desolate and sat down near the mound. The noise of the ants inside the mound was getting louder, then down. Attacked. The mound was broken. He tasted the grain placed on his tongue. 4 out of 10 ants were injured and died. Ghumba was very surprised this time because he had no problem attacking him, or 5 times each. The devil used to bite the ant on its tail. And whenever he followed, he would run away and hide under the leaves. It seemed that these ants were now in the habit of attacking. So this time, he was attacked quietly. He went back. Due to the onset of winter, he had to attack the new hill. The ants moved their grain to the new mound first. Minato had taken the responsibility of food grains. He was telling the rest of the ants to keep the grain in the bottom layer. He rubbed his forehead for 30 seconds and the next 30 seconds rubbed his last 2 legs. As a result, the soil was dug. Many other ants and ants were helping with this. Was living the all-powerful ants were linked to Chino. Because their job was to place stones in the mud around the mound. A stone raised 15 ants together and then rested. Now there were 2 mounds. A new hill where the ghost was just destroyed and resettled. And a short distance from that hill there was another new hill hidden in the bushes. The rest of the insects fell asleep at night. Chino, Minto, Nano, Pino, and Shino all quietly fall out of the mound after sleeping and extract ammo from the banyan tree root. While playing with firecrackers, humans sometimes escaped from firecrackers. The ants had found a way to save them. These 5 together formed a range of explosives outside the rocks. Then this time, after the boundary of the valley, the stones again lay. Now the rocks kept in the bar were 2 each. Combination. In all this work, the morning light became even lighter. The sun was in full jaw. Fear was also caused by dry cold ants. There was a scream in the sound of thunder. The old screaming shook. In this old age, he traveled again from here. What kind of punishment is this? The sound of drowning near the hill. All the commotion inside was calm and all the noise turned into silence. The attack was about to happen. Chino, Minto, Nano, Pino and Shino were looking outside the range of stones. According to his practice, Ghumba used to sit around the hill with a coil. He took out the tongue and heated it. They also know that I have to mix this soil in the soil. This was evident in his outstretched neck. Looking up, he attacked. His tongue hit the rock and the outer rocks were actually rocks. Made of pears. So the rocks started to rub on each other and as they were watching, the dynamite caught fire. When the ghost was ready to fire, he too could not turn his back on the disaster. His long tongue burned there. Due to twisting pain, his tail fell straight into the fire. The grass was also ignited by the surrounding grass. All the ants inside the mound were in awe. Only Chino, Minto, Pino, Nano, and Shino had apprehensive eyes. Dead. Chino, Minato, Pino, Nano, and Shino were sitting on the slurry. They took him inside the mound, which was protected by 4 stone walls. The soldiers were proud. It is said of sitting alone on a tree, this is true. The living snake eats ants and the dead snake eats ants.